AI said 3 weeks. It finished in about an hour. That gap is not a glitch. It is the whole point, and I want to talk about what it actually means when the cost of writing code drops close to zero. Because when code gets cheap, the most expensive thing left is no longer code. It is taste. And taste is a word people use too loosely, so I want to pin it down to something you can actually use this week. This material comes from a Stanford class, CS153. The two guest speakers were Garry Tan, the head of Combinator, and Diana Hu, a partner there. The lecture title was almost plain. How does one founder become a 1000x engineer? I have been sitting with this material for a while now, and the most useful parts are not the hype. They are the specific claims, and the honest edges around them, so that is what I will pull out for you. Not as a survey, as a prompt to update your own intuition. Garry made one comparison that stuck with me. When he sat where the students sit, being a founder meant one thing. You raise a large round, and you hire a large team. Founding was organizing a group of people. Your job was to coordinate other humans. A founder was, in a real sense, a manager of a labor force, and the company was the size of that force. He says that assumption has now broken. The production unit of a company is no longer a team. It is one person at a laptop, plus a swarm of agents. You do not hire first and then produce. You produce because you already are the producer. That is a quiet sentence, but it rewrites a lot of defaults. How many people you need, how much you raise, how long you wait to start. Even what a job description looks like. Think about what a production unit has meant for the last 50 years. A team of 5, with a manager, a roadmap, and a quarter. That unit was the atom of how a company grew. And now the atom is shrinking. One person with judgment, and a fleet of agents doing the work that used to sit under 5 people. The org chart does not announce this. It just stops forming in the old shape. Now the numbers? And I want to be careful here. An early Google engineer wrote that people using agentic coding tools are 10 to 100 times more productive than people still using a cursor or a chat box. And he wrote that inside Anthropic, engineers are about 1,000 times more productive than a Google engineer was in 2005. Garry and Diana repeated these numbers on stage at Stanford. I'm not handing them to you as an industry benchmark. They are classroom claims from 2 specific people on one afternoon. Treat them as a prompt to update your intuition, not as a survey. If you take them as a promise, you will get burned. If you take them as a signal, they are loud. Notice what the numbers are really claiming. Not that everyone is suddenly 1,000 times faster, that the ceiling on what one person can ship has moved, well, and the distance between the people near the ceiling and the people on the old floor has become enormous. Not distance is the real story. Diana said she could not stay calm after hearing that figure, so she opened Claude Code and tried it herself. She said she wrote about 1 million lines of code. That is her own count. From the lecture, not my measurement. I am not promising you will write 1 million lines. I am saying the distance between hearing a number and testing it is now about 10 minutes. That is the real change, not the multiplier. The loop closing in an evening instead of a quarter. The old loop was this. You have an idea on Monday. You spec it on Wednesday. You hand it to a team the week after. You see something running a month later. That entire loop is collapsing into an evening. And when the loop shrinks, the kind of bets you can make changes. You can test 10 directions before lunch. You can throw away 9 of them and keep the one that actually works. Here is the part I keep turning over. Garry said the models still underestimate themselves. You ask an agent how long a task will take. Says, quite seriously, about 3 weeks. You approve it and let it run. It comes back in about an hour. Why does that happen? Because 3 weeks is an old human clock. And that old clock is baked into the model's weights. The model speaks in our rhythm, but its hands work at a different speed. It learned to estimate from a world where humans typed and waited and reviewed. It did not learn that it could outpace its own estimate by a factor of 1,000. So the number it gives you is not a lie. It is the model being polite in a language it was trained on, the language of human deadlines. For a founder, that has a concrete meaning, that gut feeling that says, this needs a team for 6 months. That gut feeling is probably the 1000x error. Your intuition is the thing that is out of date, not the tools. And fixing your intuition is not free. You actually have to run the test, because as long as you only imagine the test, your imagination still uses the old clock. Now we get to the center of the lecture, and Diana is clearest here. She says the cost of writing code is going to 0. Whether you can write it, and how fast, is becoming worthless, because the agent does almost all of it. The mechanics of building are getting commoditized, fast. This is not a prediction. It is a price curve that has been falling for 2 years, and is still falling. That's one thing, she says, does not go to 0. Taste. The taste to make something good, and to tell good from bad. In plain words, When building becomes free, value moves. It moves from, can you build it? To, do you know what to build? And what counts as build well? The first part, the agent does for you. The second part is only you. That split is the whole lecture in one line. When construction is free, the only thing left to charge for is judgment. And judgment does not scale by writing more code. It scales by being right about what to write. Now, a lot of people hear taste and assume it is mystical, like it is a vibe you either have or you do not, some instinct you are born with or not. Diana nails it down to something very specific. Evals, your taste ends up inside the evals you write for your system. Public benchmarks cannot decide if your product is good. A lot of people still chase scores on public lists, like MMLU. Those scores do not tell you whether your product actually helps a user. They tell you how a model does on a test written by strangers. And strangers did not write your product. So what decides it? The eval set you define yourself. What output counts as good and what counts as a failure set is your taste. Translated into code, whoever defines the eval most precisely builds the best product. Vague evals give you a vague product every time. Let me make that concrete. Say you ship a feature that answers user questions. A vague eval says the answer should be helpful. That eval will pass almost anything because helpful has no edge. A real eval says, here are 200 real questions. Here is what a great answer does for each one. Here is what an unacceptable answer looks like. Now you can score the model. Now you can improve. The eval is not paperwork. It is the spec for what good means, written in a form a machine can be graded against. And here is the hard part. Writing that eval forces you to decide. Most teams do not want to decide. They want to keep good fuzzy, so nobody can be blamed when it ships average. The eval removes that hiding place. That is why it is the moat. Not because it is clever, because it is a commitment. If you think this only affects engineers, you are undercounting. Garry and Diana stress that it is not just coding. All that process-based, non-technical knowledge work can move to agents. An agent can place a phone call for you through a tool like Twilio. An agent can order and buy for you through a live voice assistant. The work that used to need a human running a flow is now one sentence away. So, one person plus a fleet of agents is not a programmer privilege. Support, operations, white lie, then recruiting, every function gets redefined. Each one becomes a person with taste, plus a team of agents. The shape of a team changes even when the headcount does not. You do not have to fire anyone. The same people start shipping the work of a group 3 times their size. That is the quiet version of the shift, and it is the one most companies will actually run. Now, the edges, because the lecture is not a license to be reckless. These multipliers are classroom points, not a promise. Not everyone will operate at 1000x. Not every project will finish in an hour. Teams do not suddenly become unnecessary, and you cannot outsource final responsibility to an AI. The person with taste is also the person holding the risk. That part does not compress. Stage, in fact, that part gets heavier, because you move faster with less review. When the loop is an evening, you can chip a mistake in an evening too, so the leverage goes up, and so does the blast radius of a bad call. The answer is not to slow down. The answer is to be deliberate about where the human signs off. So, what do you actually do? Starting this week, I will give you 3 moves. First, build your own evals. Before you ship anything, write down what good means. In cases a model can be scored on, no public leaderboard will substitute for this. If you cannot score it, you cannot improve it. And if you cannot improve it, you are not really shipping a product. You are shipping a demo. Second, give agents a verifiable spec, not a vague task. Vague is where agents quietly fail. They do not fail loudly. They fail by returning something that looks done and is not. Hand the agent a done condition, night, a budget, and a deadline. Hand over a real definition of finished. The spec is the lever. The agent can run 1,000 miles an hour, but only on the road you pave. Third, keep testing new tools on a fixed schedule. The half-life of a tool right now is short. The founders who win are the ones who retest, not the ones who pick once. Loyalty to a tool is a tax you pay in lost speed. Put a recurring block on your calendar every 2 weeks, just to try what is new, not to switch. To know what your floor now is, put it all together. When code approaches zero cost, taste becomes the scarce asset. Evals are taste translated into code. The production unit of a company has already changed. It is one person with judgment plus a crew of agents. The model still reports time on the old clock. So